Hello students, in this video we will see about the functional anatomy of ear. Ear is a special sense organ. It has two important functions: sense of hearing or audition and sense of balance or equilibrium. Ear is divided into three parts: the outer ear, the middle ear and the inner ear. The outer ear includes the pinna and the external auditory canal. The middle ear is the air-filled chamber inside the temporal bone and it has three middle ear ossicles. The inner ear is the site where the actual sensory receptors for hearing and equilibrium are situated. Sound from the external environment is conducted through the outer ear, through the middle ear, and it reaches the inner ear. In the inner ear, it is transduced, that is, it is converted into action potentials and it is propagated along the 8th cranial nerve to reach the brain for sensory perception. We shall see about the outer ear. As I said, the outer ear consists of the pinna and the external auditory canal. Pinna, the expanded cartilaginous flap-like structure projecting on either side of the head, is the pinna. The rim of the pinna, this structure, the rim of the pinna is called as the helix, and the lower soft portion devoid of cartilage is called as the lobule. The small cartilaginous protrusion overlying the external auditory meatus opening is called as the tragus. External auditory canal. It extends from the pinna up to the eardrum. It is about 26 mm in length and 7 mm in diameter in adult ear. Its lateral one-third is made up of cartilage and the inner two-third is made up of a bony structure. If you see the shape of the external auditory canal, it is slightly S-shaped. You can see like here. It is S-shaped. So what is the importance? In order to visualize the eardrum or the tympanic membrane, the pinna should be slightly pulled upwards so as to straighten the ear canal, and you can see the tympanic membrane. The direction of the external auditory canal is forwards and medially. So what is the importance? If you want to remove any foreign body or impacted wax, that is a ear wax, from the external auditory canal, the direction of the probe should be forwards and medially. Similarly, you might have experienced while wearing your stethoscope. The earpiece of the stethoscope should be facing forwards and medially, so that if you put it on your ears, the earpiece will face the eardrum. So this is the correct one. Whereas here, if you see, the earpiece is facing backwards, so it is not correct. What are the functions of the outer ear? The outer ear collects and directs the sound to the middle ear. Of course, it is limited in humans, where it is well developed in animals, which can move the ear pinna in the direction of the source of the sound. The second important function, the outer ear protects the eardrum. The skin overlying the external auditory canal has tiny hairs and ceruminous glands. These ceruminous glands secrete a substance called ear wax or cerumen. This wax will trap the dust and sand particles or microbes, and it will be expelled out. It will also help to moisturize the epithelium in the ear canal. And the odor discourages the entry of insects. So it has antibiotic, antiviral and antifungal properties. The third function of the outer ear is it helps to localize the sound source. So how is it done? We are able to localize the sound source depending upon the time delay difference between the sound reaching the two ears. For example, if you see here, the sound coming from the in front of the center of the head, it will reach both the ears at the same time. Whereas if the sound is coming from one side of the head, for example, for the right or the to the right or to the left, the sound will reach that side ear quickly, whereas the other side ear little bit late. And the fourth function is at a sound frequencies of about 2000 to 4000 Hertz, the pinna and the ear canal will resonate, and it will help to amplify the sound signal by 10 to 15 decibels. So to sum up the functions of outer ear, it collects and directs the sound to the eardrum, it protects the eardrum and the other inner structures, it helps to localize the sound source, and it also helps to amplify the sound by 10 to 15 decibels. Let's look at this picture now. Are you able to identify any abnormality in the ear? Yes, here the pinna or the auricle is absent. So this condition is called as anarchia. What is anarchia? It is a congenital absence of pinna or auricle. Polyarchia means additional pinna on one or both sides. Macroarchia means congenital excessive enlargement, and microarchia means congenital small pinna. Let's look at this picture. Is the ear normal or not? Yes, the structure is normal, but what about the position of the ear? It is called low set ears. What do you mean by low set ears? So you have to draw a horizontal plane at the level of the inner canthi. If you see the point where the helix joins the cranium, so this point, okay, this point, the point where the helix joins the cranium, normally it should be at the level of the horizontal plane through the inner canthi, whereas here it is below. So this is called as low set ears. So what is the importance of the low set ears? Low set ears is one of the external markers for many congenital syndromes. For example, in Down syndrome, the ears are small and low set. What is this picture? This is a picture of impacted earwax. So I said earwax is the normal secretion from the skin of the ceruminous glands present in the skin of the external auditory canal. But if it is excessively secreted or if it is improperly cleaned, and it's very common in children, so what happens? The earwax get accumulated and it will block the ear canal. It will impair the conduction of the sound, and it may also cause discomfort or pain in the ear. Can you grow your ear on the in your forearm? Yes, it's a very interesting fact. In the year 2016, an American soldier lost her ear in a car accident. So what did they do for her? They took a small portion of cartilage from her rib and placed it under the skin of her forearm over an ear mold. So over a few weeks, the ear grows, the cartilage proliferates and it grows, and later they transplanted this to her original in the place of her original auricle. So this is it's a part of auricular reconstruction surgery. Yes, now we move on to the middle ear. Middle ear is always called as tympanum. It is derived from the word tympani. So what is tympani? It is nothing but a kettle drum or a musical instrument. Okay, it belongs to percussion family. Here a membrane is stretched over the hollow drum, usually made up of a metal. So since the middle ear also resembles, that is the air-filled chamber closed by the tympanic membrane, that is the membrane, you call it as the middle ear is otherwise called as tympanum. Middle ear is an air-filled chamber inside the temporal bone. It is separated from the outer ear by the tympanic membrane. If you see the structure of the middle ear, the middle ear is roughly rectangular in shape. It has 6 walls: the lateral wall, the medial wall, the roof, floor, the posterior wall and the anterior wall. The lateral wall is made by the is closed by the external that is closed by the tympanic membrane. It separates the middle ear from the outer ear. The medial wall separates the middle ear from the inner ear. It has 2 openings. The above is the oval window and below is the round window. The roof of the middle ear is formed by the tegmen tympani, separating it from the middle cranial fossa. The floor of the middle ear is formed by the jugular fossa separating it from the jugular vein. The posterior wall has an entrance to mastoid antrum. So what is mastoid? Is nothing but the bony prominence behind your auricle. It has many arch-filled cells. So the entrance to mastoid antrum is present in the posterior wall of the middle ear. And the anterior wall has the opening of the eustachian tube or the pharyngotympanic tube. So it is a communication from the middle ear to the nasopharynx. And the middle ear contains 3 ossicles. You can see here malleus, incus and stapes. They are arranged. So malleus is attached to the tympanic membrane, incus and then stapes is the stapes is attached to the oval window. Tympanic membrane. So it's otherwise called eardrum, which separates the outer ear from the middle ear. So this is the outer ear, for example. This is the inner ear. So if you see the shape, it is like a shallow cone-like appearance, okay, with the concavity towards the outer ear. And this picture, you can see this picture. This is as if when we see it through an otoscope. With the help of otoscope is an instrument used to view the inside of the ear canal and the eardrum. So if you see here, you can see the tympanic membrane has 2 parts. Pars flaccida and pars tensa. And it is like a semi-transparent membrane. You can see the handle of the malleus. This is the handle of the malleus situated in the middle bone, visible through the semi-transparent tympanic membrane. The tip of the malleus is attached to the center of the tympanic membrane and is called as umbo. And if you see here, there is a cone of light here. Yes, here the cone of light. So it is present in the, and if you throw light over the tympanic membrane, a cone of light normally will be produced in the antero-inferior quadrant of the tympanic membrane. If you see the structure, you can see here in the below diagram, it has 3 layers. It has the skin covering the external layer, externally, that is towards the outer ear, that is a cuticular layer, middle fibrous layer and inner mucous membrane. Middle ear ossicles. So I said it has 3 ossicles. Malleus is otherwise called hammer. So it's nothing because of the shape. So this is the head of the malleus. So this is the head of the malleus and this is the handle of the malleus. And here incus, this is called body of incus. This is the short process of incus and this is the long process of incus. And here the smallest bone, stapes. So stapes, it is the head of the stapes and this is called as the foot plate of the stapes. So incus is otherwise called anvil. Anvil is nothing but a block-like thing used by the smiths to keep the metal and to shape them. They will hammer it and shape them. So this is the picture of the anvil. So it looks like that of anvil. So the incus bone is otherwise called as anvil. And stirrup is nothing, stapes is otherwise called as stirrup. So it's nothing but the device which is attached to the saddle of the horse to place the rider's foot. So since it looks like that, the stapes is also called as stirrup. So how the middle ear ossicles articulate. So the head of the malleus is attached to the body of the incus here. Yes, head of the malleus is attached to the body of the incus. The long process of the incus is attached to the head of the stapes. And the foot plate of the stapes here. The foot plate of the stapes will be vibrating against the oval window. What are the functions of the middle ear ossicles? First important function, it conducts the sound from the outer to the inner ear. So the sound entering through the ear canal vibrates the eardrum. Since the tip of the malleus is attached to the eardrum, the vibrating eardrum transmit the vibrations to the malleus, incus, stapes, and the footplate of the stapes vibrate against the oval window. So mainly sound is conducted in the middle ear through this ossicular chain. Sound conduction in the air from the tympanic membrane to the round window or the oval window is very negligible. You can see here also the inner ear will be fluid fill. I told middle ear is air fill, inner ear will be fluid fill. So this is the inner ear, that is the cochlea. Here they are just rolled out to diagrammatically represent. If you see here, the footplate of the steps will vibrate against the oval window. The vibrations will be transmitted in the fluid in the inner ear, that's the cochlea, and it will be reaching again the round window and cause reciprocal movement of the, here will be the round window. It will cause reciprocal movement of the round window and the oval window. Second important function of the middle ear ossicle is it not only conducts the sound, it also amplifies the sound. Why the sound energy should be amplified? I told you already, middle ear is filled with air, inner ear is filled with fluid. So when sound is conducted from air to fluid, there is tremendous loss of sound energy. That is the impedance. What is impedance? The resistance to flow. The impedance of fluid to the sound flow is more than that in the air. So what happens for the transmission to occur properly? The sound should be amplified. So what are the mechanisms by which the sound is amplified in the middle ear? It's very important. So there are two mechanisms. You have area ratio mechanism and lever mechanism. What is area ratio mechanism? See, just a simple example. When you are trying to insert a drawing board pin into a paper, you give some force over this broad area of the drawing board pin. So what happens? This force over the large area will be exerted on this small tip, the small area. So the force will be increased. That is, if the force is applied, the pressure is increased. Force is actually, pressure is actually force per unit area. So the same force which you apply over a large area, the pressure will be increased when the force is exerted over this small area. Okay. So how does it apply to the ear? If you see, the surface area of the tympanic membrane is about 50 millimeters square, whereas the surface area of the oval window is only 3 millimeter square. So the surface area of tympanic membrane is about roughly 17 times larger than that of the oval window. So what happens? The vibrations, the force of vibration on the tympanic membrane is about, when it reaches the oval window, it is amplified by about 17 times. And the second mechanism is lever mechanism. See, you can very well see here in this picture, the ossicles are arranged in the form of a lever. So here is the malleus, the red color one, okay, and here the incus and stapes acts as a single unit. So what happens when the tympanic membrane is pushed inside, the handle of the malleus is pushed inside, head will be moving out like that. So the incus and stapes together will push the oval window inside. Okay. So this is the lever mechanism. And if you also see the handle of the malleus, okay, here the handle of the malleus is about 1.3 times longer than the long process of the incus. So this is of advantage. For example, so you can imagine lifting a stone with a crowbar. Okay, lifting a stone with a crowbar. So here you have the long side of the lever and here you have the short side of the lever. So if you apply even a small force over the long side of the lever, the greater force will be applied over the short side of the lever to lift the stone. Similarly here, the long handle of the malleus is 1.3 times longer than that of incus. So what happens, the force when it is transmitted from the malleus to the incus, it is amplified by 1.3 times. So totally what happens, the sound is amplified by 22 times, 17 into 1.3, 22 times. Middle ear has two muscles. It's called tensor tympani and stapedius muscle. Tensor tympani muscle originates from the sides of the pharyngotympanic tube and it is inserted to the handle of the malleus. And it is innervated by the fifth cranial nerve, that is the trigeminal nerve. What is the action of tensor tympani muscle? When this tensor tympani muscle contracts, it will pull the malleus towards the middle ear. So it will tense the tympanic membrane and reduce the vibration of the tympanic membrane, thereby reducing the sound transmission. And stapedius muscle. Stapedius muscle is a very tiny muscle. It's the smallest muscle in the middle ear in our body. It's the smallest muscle in our body. what it is supplied by the 7th cranial nerve, that is the facial nerve. What is the action of the stapedius muscle? When the stapedius muscle contracts, it will pull the footplate of stapes away from the oval window, thereby reducing the transmission of sound. So on the whole, when these two muscles, middle ear muscles, contract, they will reduce the transmission of sound from the middle ear to the inner ear. So what is the importance? Suppose you are hearing a sudden loud noise. The hairs, the sensory receptors in the cochlea, that is the inner ear, should be protected from the loud noise. So that time what happens, when there is a sudden loud noise, the ossicular chain will be made rigid by the contraction of this tensor tympani and the stapedius muscle. Thereby sound transmission will be reduced. This is called as tympanic reflex or acoustic reflex, otherwise called as stapedial reflex. And this muscle also will contract prior to one's own vocalization. That is, when we begin to talk, before that these muscles will contract so that we are not able to hear our own voice. So that's the function of the middle ear muscles. Yes, eustachian tube. I have already told you, it's otherwise called pharyngotympanic tube. It connects the middle ear with the nasopharynx. The eustachian tube opening in the nasopharynx operates like a valve. That is, it will be closed normally and it will be open only during actions like swallowing or yawning. So what is the function of this eustachian tube? See, for the tympanic membrane to vibrate effectively, the air pressure in the outer ear, that is in the atmosphere, as well as the air pressure in the middle ear should be equal. Then only the membrane can vibrate effectively. So this is done by, if the middle ear is a closed chamber with a static pressure, imagine when you are exposed to sudden high atmospheric pressure or low atmospheric pressure, the drum will be displaced either inwards or outwards. So both times the membrane cannot vibrate effectively. So this is avoided by the eustachian tube. So eustachian tube provides an excellent mechanism to equalize the air pressure between the middle ear and the atmosphere. So in case of common cold or allergies, there will be congestion in the nasopharynx. The eustachian tube may be opening in the nasopharynx will be closed. So what happens at that time? The air in the middle ear will be absorbed and the pressure will be low. So the tympanic membrane will be pulled inwards towards the membrane. So that then you get ear pain and discomfort. So to sum up the functions of the middle ear, it conducts the sound from outer ear to the inner ear. It converts the sound signal, acoustic energy, sound signals to mechanical energy, that is vibrations along the ossicles transmitted to the inner ear. And it not only conducts, it also amplifies. That is called impedance matching by the two mechanisms. And thirdly, it also protects the inner ear. It creates a barrier that protects the inner ear, and also the muscles, middle ear muscles, provide protection from loud sounds by the stapedial reflex or tympanic reflex. So we will see a few applied aspects. So hearing loss or hearing impairment may be of conductive type. So here the problem will be either in the outer ear and the outer ear or the middle ear, impairing the transmission of sound to the inner ear. See, for example, fluid in the middle ear from cold or allergies, ear infection like otitis media. Otitis media means middle ear infection. Otitis externa means external ear infection. Or any it may also be due to poor eustachian tube function. Hole in the eardrum, the tympanic membrane perforation, benign tumors, impacted earwax, or any foreign body in the outer ear, that's the external auditory canal. So these are the few causes for conductive hearing loss. So here the problem lies in the outer ear or the middle ear. So in this video we saw about the structure and functions of the outer ear and middle ear and few applied aspects. Thank you.